Hi guys, my name's Connor. I'm going to be playing through your game. Very small thing though. I've actually already played through your game. I played through it once already and recorded my playthrough, but I didn't record the audio, and so you couldn't hear anything I was saying. And so I'm going to play through it again, and I'm going to be doing it a little bit faster this time, but just talking about some of the stuff that I saw that were like the biggest issues in my opinion. So, yeah, I'm going to jump right in then. So right off the bat, one of the first things I noticed was there were a lot of artifacts. So you guys have these textures that are scaled up text. You have these things in the top left and the top right corner, and they're really small. They're like pixel art. But I think you guys just didn't set the settings correctly in the import manager in Unity. So make sure when you do that, you check the filter on them and make sure it's set to point, because if it's set to point, it'll actually make your pixel art look like it's supposed to. Second thing, you have these stretched textures. Make sure you get some finalized versions for the end game. Last thing, with player movement, I'm sure you guys already know most of this stuff, but moving up and down is a little bit buggy. Moving left and right works, but up and down is busted. I don't know if there is a down sprite or if it's just the normal one. So then another thing, the combat was really confusing to me when I first started. I started doing this right off the bat, thinking it was something like the Binding of Isaac, where your bullet goes to your crosshair and keeps going forever. It actually took me a couple minutes to figure out that you can actually shoot and expand them. And I know it says your bullets will expand into traps, but I expected them to expand into traps wherever they hit, if that makes sense. So last thing, this fully charged traps make destructive explosions. There is nothing about these that make it look like it does explosions to me. Oh my god. I literally just figured that out now. I see. Okay. That's actually hilarious. I did not know I could do that. But okay, that'll make the game a little bit more interesting, actually. See, what I did last time is I thought I just had to make these guys step on my traps and that would damage them, which I think is the case, but it also looks like you can detonate the traps, which I had no idea about until literally 30 seconds ago. So I said this to one of the other teams too. Just really make sure that the player knows what's in your game, because I might be saying things that totally do not apply at all, because I didn't know there was a mechanic. Last time I think I got out because I was like running into the wall. I ran into like the corners and clipped out. So that's actually hilarious. So second thing I wanted to say, you guys have a lot of map here, and a lot of it is empty map, which is not great. One of the issues that lots of times you'll run into is you'll be like, oh, I want to make this really big expansive game, and you'll make a big expansive world, but the world will be more or less empty, and so you won't have things that are interesting in a world. If I'm just running through gray desert sandscape for 90% of a game without anything interesting, like think of Journey. If Journey was just a desert and there were no buildings, there were no oases or any other memorable things, that game would be boring as hell. So when you have this, try to like spice up the landscape a little bit. Maybe one of these areas is more tropical. Maybe one area is a toxic swamp or something like that. And granted, that is a lot more work, but you want to make sure that you can make the game feel interesting. what I would recommend is that you guys actually take what you have and condense it. I would say make the map smaller and focus more on either the combat or making the dungeons a little bit more interactive. Like, do more with the traps, do more with the hazards, which is confusing because you also shoot traps. Another thing, the shield text says this will let you take 1 more damage or something like that. That should be reworded to say you take less damage from this, because the way it's worded right now, it's kind of weird. Where's the sword? The sword. About the sword. The sword's busted. The sword is the strongest item in the game. I thought it was in the top left here. Yeah. I didn't use it a whole lot in my last run, just because it's busted. I feel like it insta-kills pretty much everything. I did not use it on the boss last time, but I'm going to try to use it on the boss this time and just see what happens. I do like that there's a boss fight, by the way. There's a special place in my heart for boss fights. So I don't know what I'm supposed to actually do here, but I just found that if I spam the sword, I can move through it, so that's what I do. That's what happened last time too. So one of the other big things that I talked about was really nailing down what you want your game to be. So is your game a combat game? Is it like is it an exploring based game? Are you trying to make something like Zelda where it's, yes, you're exploring, but yes, there's also combat? Well, in that case, I think you really need to focus on nailing down what you want your combat to be, because right now these two things, the traps and the sword, they kind of feel like they butt heads. They kind of feel like opposite ideas. The sword encourages you to rush people down. The traps encourage you to sort of play it safe. And, you know, it's okay to have multiple play styles in a game, but the sword is so strong. And it's like if you get the sword, the game's pretty much over. So, yeah, keep that in mind. I do like how you guys have these paths going from place to place. I noticed them like right away in the first playthrough. That's an awesome way to subtly hint to the player, like, hey, go this way, please. But you may want to consider taking out some of the paths and replacing them with something a little bit more interesting to the eye, like a signpost or a cobblestone road or something like that. My animation is gone. I just do not have my sword in. Oh, yeah, I do. So yeah, obviously you guys know that there's some issues with like the animations and the textures and stuff like that, but I think after you nail those, after you get those out of the way, you really need to figure out what you want your core of your game to be. Is it an exploring game? Is it a combat game? Are you trying to merge those two together? Okay. How can you make it better? So do that, and I think you've got something great here, and I just one-shot the final boss with the sword. So the sword is busted. Other than that, I don't think I have anything. If you guys want to ask for more advice or anything like that, feel free to email me. Not like I'm going anywhere. So have a good one, guys. Good luck with your game.